What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to another lovely Friday in the D&D world. It's it's your favorite channel, The Geek Life, keeping everything geeky for you. Well, today we
Top,
got
top, top five, top five.
yeah, we're working on our way up there to number one. Eventually, we'll knock Dungeon Dudes and Nerdocky off of their number one spots.
One day.
And if you're one of those two channels, please don't come after us. We still like you.
Uh,
So today we'll be taking a look at the overview of the Druid subclasses, what they're all about, and a couple of basic things about each of the subclasses to really help you really decide on if the Druid is right for you, and if there are, what subclasses may appeal to you. And and of course, they're everybody's favorite nature boy. So before we hit, before we head into that, as always, don't forget to comment below, hit that subscribe and that like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bar to really help us out. Keep that on the YouTube algorithm and everything, as we all know is there. And without further ado, let's get into nature and why global warming has been predicted by these folks.
uh,
So overall, when it comes to druids, they're all about they're the premier class for nature. That's their whole thing. They care about their environment, trees, animals, the different type of land environments, things like that. And they get a lot of cool and nifty spells that really deal with all of that stuff, from speak to animals, tree stride, some of the summon spells like summon animals and stuff like that, summon beast. So they're really all about that type of stuff. And if you're in your campaign, if you're doing any sort of like natural environmental stuff or natural exploration or anything like that, druids will definitely be your friend quite a bit. And as a whole, they're a full caster that's based off of wisdom, so you're gonna have that good animal handling check, that good survival check. Unfortunately, nature is tied to intelligence, so you might not be good at that, unfortunately, unless you get proficiency in it, but that's something that could be done. And and there's always that stigma of, if you're a druid, you gotta have proficiency in at least one of those three
yeah, of course.
things. Although it is interesting if you do play a druid that isn't proficient in one of those three things. But it's probably better to have a proficiency in at least one of those three things. And and just overall, they also have proficiency in intelligence saving throws, which is pretty good. It'll definitely help out with your low to medium amount of intelligence. Um, al- Although more than likely, strength is going to be your dump stat instead of intelligence, but it's there.
Yep.
And when it comes to druids, what's some of the first things that come to mind when you think of druid?
Well, I think you sort of skipped the best thing about being a druid, and that's wild shape. I think that is just that is a very cool ability to be able to have. Be able to change your shape, change into essentially any beast or creature that you can think of. Not entirely, right? You can't wild shape into a dragon or anything like that, but you can change your shape into an animal. I think that's just really neat. I think that's one of the best points of being able to play a druid.
Yeah, and it's good that you bring that up. Like, wild shape can be very good. In combat, it's very good. If nothing else, that's some extra temporary hit points that you get, pretty much. And out of combat, it can be very good if you're trying to do some sort of like stealth operation or something like that. You can always say, all right, I'm going to wild shape into a wolf, walk through the forest, nobody think will think that anything is off because they expect a wolf to be in the forest or the tundra or something.
Wherever you may be, you can pick that specific animal type for that area, and they're not going to think twice. You usually not think twice about them seeing an animal. So
Yep. Just be careful if the GM says that there are poachers in the area. You might want to be
ah,
careful then. So with and and overall, druids I think are one of the best battlefield controllers in the game. Um, prob I think the only other full casters that come even close would probably be bards and wizards. Um, because druids get so many good stuff from fairy fire to plant growth to spike growth to maelstrom and just all of these good battlefield control spells that can really help your party out in a pinch if you pick the right ones. And unfortunately, most, if not all of them, are concentration spells, so there's that. But I think overall, if you play a druid correctly, your party will love you to death. Anything else from you before we hit to the subclasses?
no, I think we've covered. That's a pretty good introductory for a druid.
Yep. So first off, from the player's handbook, we got the infamous Circle of the Land Druid. This type of druid really doubles down on really improving their spellcasting abilities. So, so for instance, at second level, one of their first abilities they get is you get to pick up another druid cantrip for free, which can be very good. You can pick up like a produce flame or shape water or guidance or whatever you might need or want, which is cool. Another good thing is they get the druid's version of arcane recovery from the wizards, where during a short rest you can recover up to half your level in druid spell slots, which is really good for longevity. And also after a bit you can't be was it charmed or frightened by plants or beast,
Mm,
which is pretty good. And the probably the big thing about land druids is you get to pick one of 6 or 8 different environments, from the Arctic to the coast to the forest, grasslands, swamps, so on and so forth. And each different land that you can choose from, it gives you a different selection of spells that are automatically prepared for and added to your druid spell list to you for free, which is very cool, and they're very thematic. Like for instance, my personal favorite land druid is the coastal land druid, and you get stuff like water walk and water breathe and control water, and probably one of the best spells on that spell list, Misty Step.
yeah,
So depending on which land you pick up, it can be very useful. And and if you decide to go with a land druid, I would definitely recommend talking to your GM just to get the gist of what to expect in this campaign so you can make a better informed choice on which land you pick up. Like if you're doing a Sun campaign, picking up the desert land is probably a good pickup instead of the coastal land.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, yeah. You hit most of the land types that people can choose from. One you didn't mention was the Underdark, which I think is also kind of neat that they've allowed for an underground sort of druid with this in this subclass. So and it's got some great spells in there too. Spider climb, stinking cloud, greater invisibility, cloud kill. Right, there's some good spells there too. So you have a wide range of land types that you can choose from. Right, so you can mold your druid into a druid for one of these different land types. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah. So I think it's a great land to pick up. Even if it might be a little front loaded, but it is a very good circle to pick up. Next up is probably one of the best subclasses for the Druid, also from the player's handbook. It's the Circle of the Moon Druid.
Mhm.
Just like how the Circle of the Land really focused on improving the spellcasting of the Druid, the Circle of the Moon Druid focuses on improving the wild shape feature of the Druid. So, for instance, at second level, when you pick up this subclass, the first thing it does is takes your wild shape and switches it from an action to assume the wild shape to a bonus action to assume the wild shape, which is good because now you can either cast a concentration spell and then go into your wild shape, or you can go into your wild shape and then go and attack somebody with it. So it's very useful with that.
Yes.
And then another thing you can do is just say, "Hey, I'm gonna utilize one of my spell slots to heal myself now while I'm in the wild shape."
Very
And
true.
and an interesting thing enough is on 10th level you can use both uses of your wild shape to transform into one of the four elementals, either earth, fire, air, or water, which is very good. They have a lot of hit points. They have some really cool attacks and everything, so it's a good thing. And also you could, as opposed to the older level restrictions of what you can change into, it is now a third of your druid level for the wild shapes you can assume, capping out at a maximum of a CR6 beast, up to that you can pick up at 18th and higher levels.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
And now I realize that that was how you divvied up the challenge ratings with this. So that's pretty neat. That opens up a lot of new possibilities.
yeah. So it's definitely really, really good. And it it can
Yeah,
definitely be a lot of fun too.
definitely. Yeah, I think this subclass, the Circle of the Moon subclass, is very would be very fun to play. Right, you're basically playing as animals the whole time, right? So uh, I think there's a lot of cool things that could be role played and have fun with. So this one seems like it's a ton of fun.
Yep. The next subclass comes from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. It's the Circle of Dreams subclass, which is a little bit of a Healy type of druid subclass. So, for instance, um, one of their first things that they get is the Balm of the Summer Court ability. So with this, you get a pool of d6s equal to your druid level, and then as a bonus action, you can target a creature within 120 feet of yourself. Spend a number of those dice is equal to up to half of your druid level, or less. Roll them, add them together, and that target creature heals for that amount of HP. And the target also gains 1 temp HP per die
That's
spell. I mean, you're not going to
that
say no to temp HP, but it could
right.
possibly be a little bit more.
That's just a funny little add-on into this ability, saying, "Oh, you rolled 4 dice, get four extra temp hit points. Thanks a lot."
Yeah. So it's interesting. Um, it can definitely help out if you don't have any other dedicated healers or clerics, paladins, none of that stuff in your party.
Right.
And then another interesting part of the Circle of the Dreams is um, it gets some sort of teleportation where if you decide to use this, it can teleport you and your party back to the last place that you had your last long rest at.
Oh,
So it could be a little bit of a get out of jail free card depending on how you play it. It's like we're going into an enemy fortress. Let's have a long rest, like a mile or two out, then head inside. We get into some trouble, teleport right outside of their fortress and go and regroup and go from there. So that's a useful ability, depending on how you pick it up, how you play it.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Very interesting.
Mhm. So I feel like if somebody was to play the Circle of the Dreams, I feel like sometimes the GM will be asked, "I know it's only 4 in the afternoon, but can we take a long rest here?" If a player says that, no, just know that something's being planned for the next day.
Yes, for sure. It's the proverbial checkpoint.
Yep, the players have just hit the save button.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. That's funny.
Especially if you see the game autosaves and you see a bunch of potions in the area. This is when they're gonna take that long rest. Next subclass is the Circle of the Shepherd. This to me is probably the best summoning subclass there is. Um, there are a few other summoning subclasses like the Conjuration Wizard and whatnot, but I think the Circle of the Shepherd does it a little bit better. So first up, the reason why I think they are great summoning subclasses, they get this thing called a Spirit Totem, which they can utilize a bonus action to drop this totem down with the aura of 60 feet. Or no, you can place it within 60 feet of you. The aura is 30 feet. So it does a couple of different things depending on which totem you decide to put down. So if you decide to go with the Bear Spirit totem, um, each creature of your choice within the aura, when the spirit appears, gains temp HP equal to 5 plus your Druid level. In addition, you and all your allies gain advantage on strength checks and saving throws while within the aura. So this is very useful, especially if you drop like a conjure animals, get like 8 creatures, drop this in the middle of them. Now all of your summons have that temp HP each, which is
Right.
very good.
Which is great. Yes. This is actually temp HP that's worth it.
Yep. The next type of spirit totem you could put down is the Hawk Spirit totem. Now what this does is whenever a creature makes an attack roll against a target within a spirit's aura, you can use your reaction to grant advantage to that attack roll. And in addition, you and your allies have advantage on wisdom perception checks within that aura. So it's not bad to be able to use your reaction to grant advantage to any one attack. That could be very good, especially if you have a paladin in the party, a rogue in the party, whatever. Like you just casted one of your heavy hidden summons, something like that. Have them attack. By the way, you have advantage on this next attack. Have
Right.
at it. Un- Unleash everything.
Right.
Especially if they happen to have the elven accuracy feat for that lovely 3d20.
Get that third D20 in there, of course.
And the third totem is the unicorn spirit. So it's more of a protection type of thing. So you and your allies within the aura gain advantage onto all ability checks to detect creatures within that aura. And whenever you happen to cast a spell using a spell slot that restores HP to any creature in or out of that aura, each creature of your choice within the aura also regains HP equal to your druid level. So that can be really useful if you happen to have 5 allies, 3 of which are summons, and you cast like healing word or something like that. Now all of those 5 people get a little bit of extra healing, which is pretty good. And 38 and 30 feet aura is, you're bound to get multiple people in that.
Yes, for sure.
And then another good reason why this is a very good summoning class is on 6th level, the Mighty Summoner. Whenever you cast a beast or fey creature, um, or summoned or created by a spell, that creature gains appears with more HP than normal, 2 extra HP per hit die it has, which can be very useful. And the damage from its natural weapons count as magical for overcoming resistances to non-magical weapons. So that's really good.
Always good at higher levels.
Yep. So it's just so it's pretty good. And like for instance, on 10th level, Guardian Spirit, any beast and fey that you call forth with your magic is summoned or created within that spirit totem's aura. That creature gains a number of HP equal to half your druid, or when it ends its turn within that aura, I should say. So it really focuses on healing and empowering all of your summons that you do create, namely Beast and Fey, which is a bulk of the different types of conjure spells. So for
Yep.
a lot of these reasons, I think that the Shepherd's Druid is probably the best summoner in the game at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of versatility with what it can summon and how it can bolster those creatures that this druid can summon.
Yeah. And then after that, we're heading to a very interesting book, the Tasha's Cauldron to Everything, where we have the Circle of the Spores Druid. This Druid is all about the fungal poison type of powers. So they get a couple of interesting spells, like they get the Chill Touch cantrip, which isn't a half bad cantrip. A few good things like Cloud Kill, Gaseous Form, Blindness, Deafness, Blight. So there's some interesting spells within that spell list. Um, One of their things that they get is the Halo of Spores ability on 2nd level. Um, Whenever a creature you can see moves within 10 feet of you or starts their turn within 10 feet of you, you can use your reaction to deal d4 of necrotic damage to that creature unless it saves on a constitution save and throw, and it increases to and die up to a d10 on 14th level. So it's a little bit of extra damage, not that
Sure.
much, but damage is damage. And then really a lot of its later abilities really focuses in on the Halo of Spores ability and the spore concept. Um,
Yeah.
so, for instance, um, uh, its symbiotic entity. Whenever you deal your Halo of Spores damage, you can roll the damage a second time and add it to the total. So basically, 2d4, 2d8, whatever level of dice it is. And your melee weapon attacks deal an extra 1d6 necrotic damage to it, which isn't bad. I mean, you're probably not going to be attacking with a melee weapon unless you shillelagh it, but it's
Mm.
there if you need it.
Yeah. One of the abilities I really like from this subclass is fungal infestation. Essentially, lets you turn things into zombies. That's pretty sweet.
Yep. So you kind of get a slight necromancer as a druid.
Yep. Yep.
So it's definitely an interesting subclass. Call, call your druid mushroom man from now on. And I can see out of all the druid subclasses, this would probably be the one that would want to use the herbalism kit the most.
For sure.
Yeah. It's like you got a rogue in the party. All right, Circle of the Spores Druid. Can you make up some poison for me to put on the tip of my rapier, please? Next up, we have also from Tasha's the Circle of the Stars Druid. This druid is all about the otherworldly space and star casting, stargazing, stuff like that. They're really looking at outer space and what that is all about. And one of the coolest things is their starry form ability, which takes their WoW shape and allows them to utilize it in a new and different way, which I really like. So they could, as a bonus action, expend the use of their WoW shape to take on one of three forms. Either the Archer, which allows them to make a ranged attack, basically a ranged version of Spiritual Weapon as a bonus action. They can also take the Chalice form, which whenever they cast a spell using a spell slot that restores HP, either you or another creature within 30 feet also can regain hit hit points equal to D8 plus your Wisdom modifier. So a little bit of extra healing, which is pretty good at range, especially. It's like two allies are down, healing word one, use this feature to get the other one back up on their feet. So that's pretty good. And the third option for the starry form is the dragon form, which is pretty cool. Whenever you make an intelligence or wisdom check or a constitution saving throw to maintain concentration, you can treat a 9 or lower on the d20 as a 10, which is pretty good. Unless you take
Sweet
massive damage from something, that means that you're auto saving on all your concentration saves.
stuff. That is very very good.
Yeah. Especially if you happen to at some point take up like the resilience constitution feat or the warcaster, this really helps bolster up your constitution saving throws, or for concentration I should say. So I like this because depending on what type of druid you're focusing on, or even what type of situation you find yourself in, you can pick which story form to really complement that situation that you're in, which is very cool.
Yep. Yeah, this is a very interesting subclass. I don't think I would have ever considered Circle of Stars to be a druid thing, right? The night sky and the stars never really hit me as something nature like, but when you think about it for a few minutes, it makes sense, right? It is part of nature, and I do like some of the visual aspects of this circle, right? Because if you at level 14 you essentially become a starry form, right? You turn into stars and you get these amazing resistances, right? Bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, etc. But you now look like a floating star, a spill of stars, which I think is pretty cool.
Yes, indeed. So you basically get that benefit that normally only barbarians get,
Right.
which is really good because as a druid, you're a lot more squishy than a barbarian, so this really helps you out. So overall, I think the Circle of the Stars Druid is a really nice addition, and I definitely think that is one of the better Druid circles for sure.
Yep. I agree.
Next up, we have from Tasha's the Circle of Wildfire Druid. This Druid is all about more or less pyromancy, for lack of a better term. So, for instance, as their circle spells, they get some interesting spells, which you could probably guess is really fire based. So they get some good stuff like Scorching Ray, Flaming Sphere, Revivify, Fire Shield, Mass Cure Wounds, and Flame Strike, which is a good AoE spell. And also, like the Circle of the Stars, they get another use for their wild shape as an action. You can expend a use of your wild shape to summon this little flame sprite near to you, which is pretty good. You can give it some sort of commands and stuff to some degree, similar to like the Beastmaster Ranger. But it's also pretty good because one thing that you can do with that flame sprite is when you cast a spell, it can originate from either you or your sprite.
That's pretty neat.
Yep. So that's definitely can offer some cool little things depending on what spell you're actually casting. And another interesting thing is actually, and when you do cast that spell that originates from either you or your sprite, it has to have a range other than self, which
Mm.
a lot of the times that would already be the case. So it's good. It's like you're in the back, but your barbarian went down. Sprite, go in, cure wounds. Barbarian, you're back up,
Yep.
and I don't have to get in close to that big scary dragon. So another cool thing is on sixth level, enhanced bond. So whenever you cast a spell that deals fire damage or restore HP, while your wildfire spirit is summoned, you roll a d8 and you gain a bonus equal to the number rolled on that d8 to one roll of that healing spell or fire damaging spell. So that so when you use this, keep that in mind, and that it's only to one roll of that. So if you're utilizing something like Scorching Ray, it's only going to affect one of those rays, not all three or four or whatever rays. But if you happen to do something like I think if you do something like Burning Hand, since they take the same damage, I think that would apply to all creatures caught in it. So I mean, it's extra D8 onto your stuff, which is pretty good.
Extra little bit of damage never hurt anybody except the thing receiving it. So
Yep. So so it's pretty good, and another interesting thing is on 14th level, Blazing Revival.
yeah,
If the spirit is within 120 feet of you, which it probably will be,
most likely.
and and you go down to zero, and fall unconscious because of that, you can cause the spirit to drop to 0 HP. You then regain half your hit points and immediately rise to your feet. So a so I think it's more or less kind of similar to like Death Ward in a way. It's like, oh, I'm about to drop. Let me kill off my fire spirit to get back on my feet with half HP. And when it comes to my turn, I'll use my other wild shape feature to usage to resummon it. Or if you're on 20th level and have unlimited wild shapes, you just keep summoning it every turn.
Yeah. No, I would think this seems like it's actually a little bit better than Death Ward, right? If you've got your spirit out, because instead of regaining just one hit point, you regain half of your hit points, which is great, right? That gives you an opportunity, I should say, to plan and strategize a little bit more to make, let yourself get out of danger instead of being like, oh, I've got one hit point. I can't run away. Opportunity attack. So I really like that ability. It is a little bit later in the game, right? 14th level, and you can get Death Ward at, right, it's a 4th level spell.
Yep, so 7th level for full casters.
Right, so it's a little bit earlier in the game, but still, I think that's pretty neat. And obviously, you're not going to, if you take Death Ward, you're probably going to use it on one of your other players and not so much on you, unless you really want to protect yourself. But I like having that extra backup when you're playing this subclass.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very useful, but by the time you get that, you'll probably have like, as a druid, you're probably going to have 80, 90, 100 HP or so, depending on your constitution and everything. So that's probably a good 40 to 50 HP you're going to be regaining, give or take. And that's when you get it.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yep, so like you said, you're definitely going to survive a opportunity attack unless that attack happens to have a nasty effect attached to it.
Exactly.
But half the times you can usually tell when those nasty melee strikes and whatnot are coming. Like, oh yeah, we find a lich. Yeah, it's probably gonna have some sort of like paralyzing touch or something like that.
Yep,
But but still, 40, 50 plus HP is much better than one.
absolutely. Any day of the week.
Yep. Especially if you happen to pick up the Fey Touch feature to gain access to Misty Step. You can just Misty Step out there and don't have to worry about your opportunity attacks.
Very true.
Yep.
Very true.
So, all in all, as a whole, I think the Druid class has a lot of interesting subclasses to that really focuses in on some sort of different type of nature or environmental type of things. So it definitely allows you to have some different variety in things. So I think that's pretty cool. And it's also one of the easier, in my opinion, one of the easier full casters to really learn and get into it if you happen to be a new player or whatever it may be.
Yep. I very much agree. I think if you want to try out uh, playing as other creatures or having a creature companion, the druid is right up your alley.
Yeah. So I definitely recommend folks playing the Druid quite a bit. It's a good class.
A lot of interesting things that can be done.
Yeah. And especially with the Tasha's Guide to Everything subclasses, it offers a lot more. I think it offers a lot more damaging options, especially with the Wildfire and the Stars Druid, that the Druid didn't really have a whole lot of beforehand. Because beforehand, Druids were mainly just battlefield control, but now you have that blaster option if you want to make a blaster Druid.
Absolutely. Yep. Makes them a little bit more versatile.
hmm So, so with that, we come to the end of the Druid class. Um, as always, recommend everybody to give it a go. And next time we'll be talking about the fighter subclass. So definitely stay tuned for that. And as always, keep your lives geeky out there.
Bye, everyone.